Supreme Court comes out and says, I mean, we talked about it on Friday with the Hunley and the gang, the laid back law. I haven't read the decision, got the idea, the gist of it. And I mean, they basically said, the First Amendment rights nil, that this was within the powers of the legislative branch, and that it's I mean, they got around the bill of attainder because you're drinking Amos Miller's milk, aren't you?
That's exactly right. The best milk in the world. AmosMillerOrganicFarm.com. AmosMillerOrganicFarm.com.
I say full disclosure, I hate TikTok. I do actually think it's a tool of social manipulation as much as every other social media platform is, and their algorithms, and I think they're gathering information as much as I think YouTube and Facebook are as well. No, and then selling that to China as well. I loathe TikTok, but did not support this ban from the beginning. So no one's going to call me a hypocrite. I would have been just as happy one way or the other. What do you think of the Supreme Court's decision? Like, does this
lousy decision, lazy decision by lazy jurists? So it is sad and pitiful how predictable the left has become on the bench. That this past year, other than actually Jackson in a few cases, so Sotomayor maybe once or twice, but for the most part, Democratic judges now just vote according to whoever the Democratic partisans want. So here, because this was a Biden and Democratic congressional initiative, a Biden initiative, and even Biden made a big deal about trying to pretend he's Eisenhower, warning about the military-industrial complex. So in his delusion, he goes, but he's either Eisenhower or he's Kennedy. You don't know which one he is on any given day, even though information is flowing out that for the last year, high-ranking media members knew about all of how Biden had completely lost it and covered it up and hid it for as long as they could. Extraordinary scandal, including involving Larry Sabato at the University of Virginia, who does his crystal ball, which manages to always be broken and wrong for the last several election cycles. But in that context, but Biden comes out and says, whatever you do, we got to worry about the tech industrial complex. And there is something to worry about, but it's the ones he's in bed with, not the ones he's going after. So 9-0 Supreme Court. What do they say? They say that it's okay to completely shut down a platform for speech as long as there might be reasonable national security concerns. And because there's so many people that on the right that are obsessed with China, and then the deserved criticism of big tech and big tech monopolies in general, too many people on the right have not paid enough attention to this. Trump, to his credit, was always opposed to the TikTok ban. Robert Kennedy, to his credit, was also opposed to the TikTok ban. But unfortunately, what happened is politically, all the 6 conservatives went along with the 3 conservatives, the 3 institutionalists, and the 3 liberals went along with the Biden administration. And there's all kinds of problems with the law. If the law was limited to saying you can't share this information with China, just write that law. That's that simple. That's not what they did. They're using this as a precedent to try to say we can shut down any speech platform anytime we want. All we got to do is say we might have national security concerns, because they didn't document the national security concerns. The Supreme Court acknowledged in the decision there was no evidence of what they were suggesting had necessarily taken place at scale, private information of individuals being shared without their knowledge or consent to the government of China, which was the purported pretext and predicate for this ban on TikTok. If you dig into it, they could ban Rumble on these grounds. So this was not a good decision at all. Not a good action at all.
If I may pause you there, they could ban Twitter or X for similar reasons. Right. Now, I do want to say one thing.
All you have to have is any individual be associated with the tech platform that is otherwise associated at any level with any foreign person that the politicians identify as adversarial to them. I mean, you read the language of the law, as Thomas Massey pointed out, it's ridiculously vague. It's like if you wanted to, Rand Paul, same point. If you wanted this narrow focus like they're claiming, we're really worried that Americans don't know their information is being secretly shared with a foreign intelligence apparatus. Well, Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Google have been doing that with the Five Eyes now for a half a decade. So it's totally bogus that they weren't concerned about China having access to this information. China has 100 other ways to get. They were worried about that. Why aren't they worried about China buying up our farms? Why aren't they worried about China owning our medical supply chain?
And not just that, is that even if you ban TikTok on this basis, the American companies still collect that data and then sell it to China.
Yes, of course. It's out there. Am I against what big tech is doing? Absolutely. Do I think the solution is to start banning people's speech? No, it isn't. And this was a weak decision by a weak court. Conservatives got compromised because of their dislike of TikTok and their dislike of China. Understandable, but that is not a pretext to start eliminating speech in America. And as many of the TikTok supporters have pointed out, this escalated towards, by the way, the same Supreme Court would have gone the other way if Trump had been the one to issue the ban. Just go back and look when Trump was looking at banning TikTok until these issues were resolved. All of a sudden, everybody was like, no, that's clearly illegal.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I had it in the backdrop ready to play. I don't want anybody saying, oh, Viva and Barnes ignored the montage of Trump saying he was going to. I'm not playing the whole thing. I'll play 30 seconds. You can listen to this, and if you have half a brain, you'll understand the distinction of what Trump is saying here and not saying here versus what he's saying now. Check.
When I wanted to disable TikTok 3 years ago, I was met with opposition from rhinos, Democrats, and everyone else. They actually went to court in an effort to stop me.
We're looking at TikTok. We may be banning TikTok.
We're looking at maybe
some other things.
Just some other things.
But a lot of things are happening. So we'll see what happens. But we are looking at a lot of alternatives with respect to TikTok.
Till September 15th. After that, they got to close shop. Okay? That's TikTok.
We're looking at TikTok. We're thinking about making a decision. We're going to be watching the hearings today very closely.
I'll pause it there because, I mean, you get the gist. We're looking at it. There's an issue, which everyone acknowledges. And what Trump is saying right now is it'll be Americanized and the security issues will be resolved and we'll still maintain a platform where people make a living off of and where people get information from.
Right, correct. And and he realized that the belated effort to ban TikTok was not based on the same concerns that he had, and that they were just pretext for helping Facebook. For example, a bunch of the congressmen and senators, I'm sure Biden-connected parties, have made huge investments into Meta and Facebook because Facebook is considered the prime beneficiary and the principal competitor of Facebook and Instagram with TikTok. And again, I've been a critic of TikTok from very early on. It's manipulation of people. We've documented cases where TikTok helped lead to kids committing suicide. I mean, all kinds of horrendous events. We'll probably have to edit that word out. Or
I'm gonna get another email tomorrow, Robert. Viva, we're concerned for your safety. Are you?
Yeah, exactly. The safety of your listeners. But yeah, it's no. I think Trump is determined to allow TikTok back up and just solve the issue of information going to a foreign country. That's the national security concern. That's what the law. I mean, to say it was that it's narrowly tailored to ban TikTok to solve the problem of information going overseas. Why can't you just ban the information from being transmitted overseas? You want to know why? Because as you pointed out, the other companies are already doing it, and they don't want that to be against the law. This was solely to punish TikTok for allowing pro-China and, most importantly, anti-Israel language and rhetoric all over there. The intelligence operatives were annoyed that they don't have a monopoly on this information because U.S. intelligence agencies have backdoors into Facebook, into Instagram, into Google, into YouTube. Probably not anymore with Twitter.
But not Telegram.
Yes, they don't with Telegram. But Telegram even loosened up its principles about what it will share after the French locked them up. That's what this is about. This is about intelligence agencies being able to, Western intelligence agencies being able to access this data and information whenever they want. I mean, right now this information goes through Larry Ellison at Oracle. That's who's providing the support, as far as I know, to TikTok. I mean, Oracle has deep U.S. intelligence ties. So they're not China. They're not a Chinese front at all. So what conservatives should be worried about is anytime you're embracing banning speech, second guess why you're doing it. Second guess whether that's a good idea, and it just almost never is. But because they think, oh, it's going to hurt my political opponents, woohoo! That's probably not what's going to happen. So now I think TikTok will be back up and going because I think Trump doesn't want it to be banned. TikTok was a very effective platform whereby his campaign was able to reach people at extraordinary levels. And so he saw through what they were doing. He was like, oh, you're just taking my old ideas and you're just using it as a pretext for an ulterior agenda.
I'm thoroughly convinced the pretext is to go after Rumble and to go after Twitter the way they actually went after Telegram. Yep. And look, you might not connect the dots, but you cannot deny the timing of the TikTok ban movement with massive support for the Palestinian movement and massive critique for Israel after October 7.
Yeah, that's when it escalated. People like Tom Cotton are deep state war whores, so you can't trust anything people like him and them say. And the point that Rubio made in his confirmation proceedings, the point that J.D. Vance has repeatedly made, he met with the vice president of China, actually I think yesterday, at the as part of his incoming VP duties. His point is that we need to look at, and I thought Rubio made a very effective presentation. Richard Barris, People's Pundit Daily, did a breakdown on it, pointing out this was a radical shift for Rubio. Rubio went from a neocon, deep state, war whore advocate to being more on the Trumpish side of the equation because he sees that's where the political future is. But he pointed out that, the issue is going to be our manufacturing base, that's the issue with China. It's not a military conflict. It's what happens if we are dependent upon China for essential medicines, for essential foods, for essential energies. He goes, that's not a world we want to be in. And that's what Trump's focus has always been.